I'm Andrea Melisa. This week on Talking Business, the focus is on the construction and property sector. Joining Anushan Selvarajah is Nayana Mawilmada, Sector Head of John Keells Properties.
Welcome to LMDtv, Nayana. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Nayana, as an opener now, to what extent did the pandemic and the subsequent shutdown affect the construction and the property market?
So, I think like everybody else, we on the property sector, construction sites needed to shut down. So for about a period of two or so months, maybe a little bit over 2 months, all construction sites across the city really shut down. I think we're in the process of systematically reopening them, working with the government. So that was the big kind of impact immediately. Of course, there is also an impact on kind of how quickly inventory is moving. There's a lot of people on a wait and see kind of situation. So I think that there is a fairly substantial impact in the short term. But I think we're getting back to business and things are starting to ramp back up now. Yeah, slowly by slowly.
Now the country is opening up and work is somewhat getting back to normal again. But for the construction sector in particular, what would be this new normal?
So it's, to be very honest with you, I think it's too early to say what the new normal will be on a long-term basis. The current situation at least on the sites that we operate, is we've got enhanced safety protocols on people coming in, temperature checks, foot washers, and all kinds of stuff that the government has issued a guideline, and we've been working. I think most contractors must be doing this with the health authorities on specific sites. So they actually clear our protocols, and so I think what we have right now is sites not at full capacity. So we have maybe on our sites about 40 to 50% of the workers at the moment. In some cases a little bit less, but we're slowly starting to ramp it up under the supervision of. What I mean is, there's not going to be completely new ways to build things. It's just a question of the velocity with which you can build with maybe slightly dense sites, or how do you ensure that construction workers, you really can't do everything a meter apart. Some things teams do need to work together. So really ensuring safety on site is going to be a kind of ongoing thing that we have to manage going forward.
Now let's take urban real estate development. Do you think the trends in this segment would change?
Look, this is to be honest, that's a question that a lot of people ask me. Basically, the quick answer to that is, in my opinion, absolutely no. And I'll temper that. I would say that in Sri Lanka. Because if you look at the fundamental situation in Sri Lanka, our urbanization is really sprawling. We have less than 10% of people living in apartments, really. Our traffic issues are bad. They may not be really as bad as they used to be 2.5 months ago today, because quite a number of people are working from home. But again, as things are starting to ramp back, we will go back to the same set of problems that we had before. And I think the fundamental forces of the city's expansion will still continue to drive people towards the city, closer to the city, and into urbanized housing. I think that is an inevitable force in the context of Sri Lanka, because we are way behind in terms of urbanization and densification compared to the region. I might go to the other end. If I take a city like New York or one of the major metropolises in an advanced economy where which is hyper density, and you might have a slightly larger portion of people working from home. So you might see a minor drift. But at the end of the day, cities form for a reason. I think people like people contact, and I think that trend is going to come back. There's going to be a short-term kind of reservation, but I think it will come back. If I may though, we wanted to really study this. Because you hear a lot of people saying all kinds of stuff of, you can't really manage in an apartment during a pandemic. So we did a primary research actually on this over the past couple of weeks, just to see how apartment dwellers in Colombo coped. And it was really quite revealing. 90% of the respondents were actually they said they felt safe, very safe in the apartments. Overwhelmingly, again, about 92% of people, I think, said, they felt they were better off. Location, a lot of people, I think about 80 something percent of people said, the location really mattered to them and that they had plenty of access to services and goods and supplies. So on multiple fronts, it was quite revealing that, the people in the apartment communities in Colombo, and I will qualify that again. We targeted mostly the middle and upper income, uh, ranging, not only Colombo proper, but also in the suburbs, the smaller buildings and so on. By and large, I think the apartment communities were reasonably happy, felt like they were managed well. And also, about 70% of them said they were less lonely because they lived in apartments. So again, I think it just shows the kind of underlying human nature of this. And I think the trend will absolutely continue. There may be a small blip just because of cash flow issues and developers and so on. But otherwise, the fundamental trends, I feel very strongly that it will go back.
Now, there is also a question of affordability. Investments have dropped, savings have been depleted. How will people be able to afford this going forward?
Basically, Sri Lanka's always had an issue with affordability in the real estate market, particularly in the kind of middle income space. If you look at the younger first-time home buyers and other middle-income professionals, access to mortgages is really a bit of a difficult thing. Interest rates are high. Banks are a little bit skittish, actually, about lending, and it's been prohibitive. So the actual mortgage penetration, housing mortgages to GDP ratio is very, very low. It's about 7-8% in Sri Lanka, which is extremely low by international standards. So that problem needs to be solved. That problem becomes a little more acute in the current situation because people have taken pay cuts. There's a bit of a slowdown. So again, in the shorter term, affordability is absolutely going to be an issue. We're hopeful that the government will start to really look at this space and stimulate the home mortgage market, particularly again for this younger demographic, the first time home demographic, so that this industry can really move. I agree. It's in the short term, it's going to be an issue, but of course, as the economy recovers, I expect things to kind of start going back as well.
We're going for a short break, Nayana. We'll be right back after this. Stay tuned.
Let's have another look at this one. These Sri Lankans are giving the Aussies a real hiding.
It takes guts to be Sri Lankan, and leaps of faith, a mighty stash and hope and heart. It takes hella hot to be Sri Lankan. We take loud and proud and quiet and kind and smart, and trying to be too smart. It takes a temple to be Sri Lankan, and a church and a mosque and a koval and a shrine and a smile. It takes a warmonger, a peacemaker, a mother, a martyr. It takes an alma mater. It takes kahata, an adiya, a chant, a tune, and a galkul to be Sri Lankan. It takes a mighty girl to be Sri Lankan. It takes a village and a bridge and a school and a vega and an ultra laksa and some major lakka. It takes Ceylon to be Sri Lankan. It takes the south to be Sri Lankan. It takes the north to be Sri Lankan. It takes the east and the west and everything in the middle to be Sri Lankan. It takes love to be Sri Lankan. It takes a crisis to become more Sri Lankan than you ever thought. It takes giving it a shot. Let's give it everything we've got.
Welcome back as we continue our discussion with the sector head of John Keells Properties, Nayana Mawilmada. to find out what's in store for the construction and property market here in Sri Lanka. Continuing from where we left off, Nayana, what about property rates or values? How have they been affected?
That's a good question. The issue is this: there's been very few transactions, so it's really hard to determine have values gone down or not, because there are no transactions. You'd expect rents maybe to drop, a few things to drop, and because of that some values get adjusted. But the question is, for how long is that adjustment? A short-term blip doesn't necessarily mean a drop in overall values, right? And you see this in lots of markets. The question is, you rarely start to lose lots of money. You just don't gain. You have a stagnation with less transactions, and then when markets pick up, values tend to go up again. And I think that's the nature of real estate. That's why people put money in real estate, because it tends to lose less value, and then you start to get the upsides. And it's kind of it's a bit of a stable asset class. If you've got a long view, it's actually a very stable asset class, even with fluctuations in inflation, fluctuations in the exchange rates and stuff. There's a bit of a latency, but real estate tends to perform really well.
And I know some of the properties being constructed at this point of time are for tourism and entertainment purposes. Now, with probable physical distancing laws and regulations to come in, how do you plan on managing this?
Yeah, so I think that is yet to be determined. So we are looking at operationally what are the kind of mechanisms that we can put in place to enhance health and safety. In a way, for us, it's an opportunity to make it really one of the first projects that is kind of that has like really, really strong protocols. Again, I think, Anushan, the issue is it's a bit too early to call, because we don't know where this will stabilize. I don't think you structure an entire asset for a peak pandemic situation. You would calibrate it for kind of a stabilized situation. I don't think we are in that stabilized situation yet. That's the call we've made. That look, we'll wait a few months, see how things stabilize. What are the regulations and requirements that come in? We learn more about these kinds of diseases and what can be done to protect them. And if there's something we can do operationally or with minor tweaks, we can certainly do those things to the building to try to make sure these events and all are very safe. So again, I think it's really an issue around events and so on. The apartment buildings, I think, are perfectly fine. Again, the existing apartment buildings in Colombo, as our data suggests, are quite okay. So this new building will be perfectly fine as well, as long as proper operational procedures are put in by the management corporation, which I'm sure they'll do. So
now our economy is in a period of recovery, Nayana. So in that light, for your sector, what sort of policies would you like to see coming in?
So for the property sector, as I said before, one of the biggest things I believe is making sure that financing is available and affordable for customers, particularly the middle and class, that they can actually get mortgage financing to get the housing quality that they want and need, and we should be able to deliver. I think that would be number one. The second is really trying to help manage the construction costs. Now, in our situation, we have massive taxes on top of construction costs, all kinds of tariffs that come in. That really our construction costs in Sri Lanka are much higher than the rest of the region, even higher than Malaysia. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be put in to manage construction costs, to help developers kind of deliver product at a much more affordable price. I think that would be another big area of policy intervention that needs to happen. I would say those are the big two, to be honest. The third, of course, is related to land, and where the government starts to liberalize some land and put it onto market. But again, giving the right pricing signals on so that so the land costs are absorbed. So again, housing can be delivered at a price point that is affordable for the domestic customer. I think is a big challenge. So there's three things really, right? So reducing land costs. The biggest one is access to financing. Second is reducing construction cost, and third is availability of land.
As a final question, then, how would you see the construction and the property market performing over the rest of this year?
I think it's going to be a slow couple of months, in the next couple of months, certainly. And a lot of it depends on how quickly we stabilize, whether we get a second wave or whether we kind of really get past this. I think it'll be a slow couple of months while people kind of deal with other issues of not getting sick and getting over their pay cuts and so on. But again, the fundamentals for the medium to long term the industry are actually still quite strong. The kind of development parameters of the city again point to potentially kind of doing well. I think this surge of interest from the Sri Lankans living abroad is a very, very positive sign. I think that can do really well for us. So first couple of months, I think it'll be slow, but I think we might see a recovery faster than we anticipate.
Well, let's hope everything works out in the end. Thank you very much for joining us, Nayana. It was a great pleasure.
Thank you very much, Anushan.
After a short break, Andrea Melisa will be back with an update on Life on Earth. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Andrea Melisa. Let's take a look at life on Earth. The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted consumer behavior across the world. Consumers in 17 countries, according to a Global Web Index survey, have reported changes in physical activity and online shopping behavior, along with smartphone use and media consumption, among other activities, with some expecting these adjustments to continue post the outbreak. Globally, about 85% of consumers report that they have undertaken some sort of physical exercise during this pandemic. Exercising at home is the most popular, with 51% of respondents engaging in home workouts. Additionally, a third of those surveyed take walks, while 2 in 10 run or take part in live-streamed classes or online sessions. According to Global Web Index, 40% plan to continue spending more time exercising even after this pandemic is over. While the extent to which these plans and expectations will convert to reality is unclear, this response serves as an indicator that consumers are looking to be more healthier and are likely to respond to support and initiatives that will facilitate this. In addition to those who expect to spend more time exercising, 26% of consumers anticipate spending more time socializing as a family or a household. As for media consumption, almost a quarter of respondents plan to watch more news coverage, while a fifth expect to watch more shows or films on streaming services or videos. Some of the highest figures for planned changes in behavior are among Gen Z, with about a quarter intending to spend more time streaming music and watching videos and TV streaming services, compared to less than 10% of baby boomers, around 12% among Generation X, and almost 20% of millennials. Meanwhile, a majority of 95% of those surveyed say that they're spending more time on in-home media consumption and activities. 66% of those surveyed say that they're watching more news coverage during the pandemic, while 35% are spending significantly more time on this. Smartphone and mobile phone use have also adjusted during this pandemic, as 76% of those surveyed say that they're spending more time on these devices. Around half are spending more time on messaging services, while 47% report spending more time on social media. 1 in 2 consumers say that they're spending more time socializing as a family or a household. In terms of demographics, the highest figure is 52% among Gen Z, while the lowest is 35% for baby boomers. When it comes to changes in buying habits, 23% of the respondents are spending more time shopping online. Moreover, a third are shopping online for more food and groceries, while 29% are shopping for household essentials. That's our show for the week. Thank you for watching LMDtv. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. Thank you and stay safe.